No, we are not getting a new episode of Stranger Things. We'll see about tomorrow if that's the case, but I doubt that we are going to have that happen. Stranger Things is over. Believe it or not, we are done with this series. I am sure of that. Like, we've spent about 10 years, almost 10 years of this series. And we essentially grew up with this series. Got to grow up with the characters and the actors behind these characters, and got to sort of see the evolution of this. And I just kind of feel like we're kind of over that, at this point. Especially with, like, the way that Season 5 was and the things that have kind of went on about with this. I just think that we're good off of having, like, another, I think we're good off of just having this show, and I think we should just kind of move on and, like, not, I guess, put so much of a strain on, like, having the series continue. I think that the series has done what it's done to the best of its ability, and I think that we should just sort of move forward to bigger and better things. I know that Stranger Things does have a spin-off coming out soon, so I mean, that will be something to look forward to, and I mean, it's going to be cool to kind of see that come to light, but I don't think that we should focus on a new episode of Stranger Things. It's understandable with, like, the way that, the last episode ended, which, like I shared in, like, my last video, like, I wouldn't say it was the best, but, like, it was decent. I think it was okay and good at best, but it wasn't, like, the best, if that makes sense, or a great episode. Because it essentially just kind of felt like a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of felt like that. And I feel like it wasn't really, I guess, as much of a grandstanding kind of, show as much as we would have wanted to be. Or at least a grandstanding season as we would have wanted to be. The show kind of suffers from a lot of, what happens a lot when a show runs for, like, 10 years. I think, plot holes start to be developed. The characters really didn't want to be dead, or the writers didn't really want to be dead, and I think that you could really see that just being very apparent. Like, they didn't want any of these characters to die. The whole wormhole narrative, to me at least, just kind of got a bit redundant. I feel like they should just kind of focus on just keeping it simple. Just a boy, that was lost in the Upside Down, and that literally being a simple concept. That simple concept was what made Stranger Things good, and what made Stranger Things, at least in season 1, a good series. Trying to make too much connections between Dimension 5 and Upside Down being a connection to the 2 worlds, 3 worlds at that, or dimensions, and Vecna, and all this kind of stuff. I feel like it's just too much. Like, we don't need to do too much with that storyline, I think we should just keep the storyline simple, and that's that. I don't know if they're going to maybe do better with Stranger Things, Tale from 85. Like, I don't know if they're going to do better with keeping things simple within that realm. I know for the spinoff, they're going to focus more so on the Vecna storyline, which that could be interesting. But it would have been cool if they did something like Montauk. I feel like if they had done a spinoff like Montauk, and sort of the theme around, like, the lab experiment from that time, it would be cool to kind of see, like, what they could do to replicate that and to put more effort into that. Because essentially that's what season 1 was, It's based on, like, a movie like Stand By Me, and, those sorts of, like, shorts, like the Boonies or Goonies, like, movies like that, where they're able to kind of detail the creepy, horror-esque aspects of the film genre, being able to tackle something with not a lot of talking or not a lot of saying, but more so just, like, letting the actions speak, letting, the mystery of where the boy is stand out, letting, the Upside Down be through the walls be something that comes out. I feel like there's a lot that they could build on that, and I feel like if they did a storyline on the lab experiment, let's say they're probably gonna build something on, like, a lab experiment, developing the children, Dr. Brenner, something goes wrong, boom, Upside Down is developed. What's the storyline with the other kids? What's the storyline of the whole town? What could have been wrong, or some things that we were missing in maybe season 1, or some Easter eggs in season 1. They could probably build off of that. If they did something like that, I feel like that could really keep us interested, and I feel like that could be a way to draw back to what made Stranger Things interesting for us in the first place. Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm right. I might be wrong or I might be right. I don't know, but yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know. If anybody comes across this and has any thoughts and opinions, let me know. Thought I would share that.